Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PLB112 News at 11. This is Damien Couture here to serve you your daily dose of plant news. Our first story of the night covers a fascinating aspect of plant biology known as desiccation tolerance. Desiccation is the loss of water within a plant caused by the plant losing more water than it takes in. While this sounds like it might be a very bad thing, it's actually a great thing for seeds so that they can survive without being infected by molds. This allows them to be stored for long periods of time, such as in the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Their desiccation tolerance allows plants to survive harsh drought conditions and long, harsh winters. Now, on to our best correspondent, Maya Jones. Maya, please take it away.
Thanks, Damien. We are here in beautiful Davis, California, where the campus arboretum is host to numerous plant species. I am here with the world-renowned botanist Daphne Crum. Daphne, how are you doing today?
I'm great. What beautiful weather we're having today despite this drought.
Speaking of drought, I hear you're an expert on our topic of the evening, desiccation tolerance. Do you mind giving us a brief explanation of what exactly that is?
Sure, in the face of challenging environmental factors, plants might struggle to retain enough water to perform specific functions and maintain their structure. Plants that exhibit desiccation tolerance make use of chemical mechanisms and physical adaptations to stay hydrated. Chemical mechanisms such as late
I believe that last time we spoke, you said something about late embryogenesis abundant proteins, also known as LEAs or LEAs, which are chaperone molecules present in all land plants, showing their commonality and they're necessary for plant life on land. They're present from moss all the way to angiosperms, with moss being the oldest variety of plant present on land and angiosperms being the newest. It is actually not well known how these proteins function yet, with our furthest understanding coming to just knowing that they function on a protein-to-protein basis due to the fact that experiments show a requirement for a 1-to-1 ratio. Another fascinating fact about LEA is that they do not use ATP in order to keep other proteins from denaturing due to lack of water, unlike many other chaperone molecules. This most likely has to do with the fact that, unlike other chaperones, LEA is necessary to be present before desiccation, unlike heat shock proteins, which are able to recover native conformation of a protein after they are denatured.
Yeah, great. And also you should keep in mind that
You are correct, Damien. I do remember us talking about late embryogenesis with Daphne last week, as well as osmoprotectants, which are uncharged, highly soluble organic compounds that help control osmotic stress and ionic concentration within a plant, especially in desiccation conditions. These molecules are all non-toxic, even at very high concentrations, and have no effect on the metabolic machinery inherent to cells within the plant. They include molecules such as sucrose and amino acids, which are extremely common in the organic world, the production of which are actually the main focus for development of desiccation-resistant plants that are more climate change resistant than the ones we have currently.
Wow, thanks guys for explaining. I'm pretty sure I had that covered, but I guess that was good enough. You know, you guys did forget about protein dehydrin, a pretty good example of a LEA. Dehydrin is a protein that will accumulate as a response to desiccation and provides structural support to plant cells that are lacking turgid pressure.
Aside from our typical dry conditions, which we are clearly experiencing today, what other conditions might cause desiccation tolerance mechanisms to activate in plants?
Great question. Plant species might differ in many ways, but they share many defense mechanisms in the face of extreme cold, high salinity, and other harsh conditions.
These seem like a challenge for farmers. Are there ways we can manipulate crops to be equipped with these mechanisms and produce more or better plants?
Yes, understanding the molecular basis of desiccation tolerance can benefit crop production in harsh climates. For example, cereal crops have been genetically transformed to combat drought. In one study, the HVA1 barley gene that encodes a LEA protein was inserted into a wheat variety, and the transformed plants were shown to maintain higher water content than the wild-type lines, as well as higher yield in drought conditions. So this research shows that the positive implications of modifying crops for drought resistance is possible, whether that requires breeding new hybrid crops or modifying crops with gene editing tools.
These mechanisms are so fascinating. Thank you for all this great information. Now, I know that stomata of plants function to mediate water and gas exchange. Do these structures in plants play any part during desiccation?
Certainly, a crucial way that these structures come into play is their closing in response to desiccation. As you were saying, they do in fact function in water and gas exchange, the closing of stomata preventing water loss. The main protein that induces the closure of stomata is known as abscisic acid, or ABA for short, which plays a key role in the pathway known by the same name. In response to drought and other conditions, ABA is accumulated to induce a polarized gradient by inhibiting ATPase activity and forcing potassium ions out of the guard cells that surround the stomata, releasing turgid pressure and closing the pore. Pretty crazy, right?
Very crazy. I know earlier you mentioned that there are physical adaptations that plants have to stay hydrated. I assume that there are others besides just closing the stomata?
Yes, of course. Some of these include having a thick, waxy cuticle. The cuticle refers to the outer layer of the plant, and the thick, waxy layer prevents water from transpiring away. Furthermore, plants that live in low water conditions, such as deserts, may have smaller leaf sizes to reduce the surface area that a plant can lose water from. And finally, some plants will just have a large root system in order to try to draw up more water than they're able to do so.
Thank you so much, Daphne. It is always a pleasure getting to talk with you. All right, now back to you, Damien, with the rest of the stories for the day.
Thank you, Maya and Daphne. That was incredibly informative, and I'm sure our viewers enjoyed all of that extra B-roll. For our next story, UC Davis will again admit more students than they can properly teach.